So, to the surprise of absolutely no one, China also uses propaganda to its benefit. In this case, ridiculing Donald Trump with its back and forth in terms of tariffs. He said this, now he's going back, he's scared and whatnot. And of course, the left-wing media in the United States use this against him too. Folks, as always, if you want to learn more about survival and preparedness, especially given the economic context in which we are, you certainly now more than ever want to get Surviving the Economic Collapse, as well as 3 survival skills, books that will be super helpful in getting you prepared for what's already happening and what's to come. Guys, this is what we saw from CNN.
Yeah.
Let me go back there.
And good evening, I'm Erin Burnett. Out front tonight, Trump chickened out. At least that is what the Chinese are saying. I mean, that post with the viral hashtag, Trump chicken out, now has 150 million views in China and counting, after Trump all but caved to Xi Jinping.
We are going to have a fair deal with China. It's going to be fair.
Are you talking to them actively now?
Actively. Everything's active.
Mr. President, has there been any direct contact between the U.S. and China for trade at all?
Yeah, of course.
And
Every day.
Of course.
Every day and active. I mean, you know, the implication.
I mean, the woman is, of course, a CNN anchor, so yeah, but of course they talk every day, of course. And it's not just, I mean, there's teams, there's probably hundreds of people that communicate with one another in the different administrations, and especially on the bigger countries. The communication is certainly constant on all levels, especially with someone like China.
Here, what it sounds like is there's a big deal, it's being worked on, things are happening, we're moving forward. Well, the problem is that he was undermined in that sentiment and rhetoric by his own Treasury Secretary, who told reporters this morning that, quote, both sides are waiting to speak to the other. Waiting to speak to the other. I mean, that's the whole waiting by the phone thing that's been going on for weeks now. Of course, talking to...
What do you guys think about this Bassinet guy? I mean, he is a Soros lieutenant that broke the Bank of England, famous for being the most powerful LGBT man in the world. Do we like Soros now? I thought we didn't. What's going on, guys? Let me know in the comments. Since when do we like Soros now? Since when do we take people from his... basically from his family of fucking pure evil? I don't know. I really would not like. I really would love to see this man move away and go to other things and not be involved in anything with the U.S. administration. But anyway.
It takes 2 seconds in a situation like this if something real starts. It literally takes 2 seconds. In fact, the Chinese finance minister is in Washington, D.C. as I speak, yet we'll show him to you. He is there not meeting with the Trump team right now. But why did Trump put 145% tariffs on China only to back down? Why would that happen? I mean, because according to the Wall Street Journal tonight, Trump is considering major concessions, potentially slashing some tariffs on Chinese imports by more than half. And that's pretty incredible to cut by more than half when you haven't even started negotiating.
It's not incredible. It is ridiculous to have 145% tariff. Trump knows it. This is the art of the deal thing, which I don't, I don't go with much at all. I don't think it's a good idea to do something this, oh yeah, we just ruffle a few feathers and then we go, you cannot have that kind of tariff. I mean, tariffs, honest to God, real tariffs, for example, between United States and Europe, 2%. 2% on both sides, basically. It was a little bit higher on the US side, but that's an actual tariff. This is 145 means you're not doing business with them anymore. You're more likely to not see any more Chinese products going in than seeing them going with 145% tariff, And if you see them going in with 145% tariff, means that it is all of a sudden 145% more expensive than it was before. So it is unsustainable to bankrupt the American people just to punish the Chinese. And this idea that they have about, well, they need us because we are the biggest market in the world, but you're not the only one, right? The entire world put together is much bigger. China is actually the one that is producing everything. And you may be the one printing the money that is, out of pure will used by everyone else, maybe a little bit more pressure here and there, but you don't have any obligation. If it comes down to everyone going like, fuck you, we're going our own way, the Chinese are the ones that win because they make everything. or they make most of the everything that is needed for societies to sustain themselves these days. You have specialized production and specialized industry. In the case of Germany, they're not making a ton of crappy shit. They're making very specific things with a very high-end quality result. And they may be like, for example, Bic pens or lighters produced in France. But they're very high quality. They're very modernized industrial process. It's not about having a million Chinese doing that sort of thing that they do over there because of the kind of labor they have, the kind of quality of life, the employment, the kind of society that they want. You can't have Americans or Europeans work as Chinese people do. Those people work what? A lot harder? Yeah, sure. Of course they do. But it's not only that. It is a society that finds value and satisfaction in doing things that the rest of us in the Western world do not. You don't find any kind of happiness and fulfillment by being a cog in a giant ass industry that has you screwing down iPhones all day long. The Chinese people do. The Taiwanese people working in those famous microchip factories do. But that same factory moves to the United States and people are not happy and they actually quit. They don't want to work there. There is such a factory already in Arizona, but it's fucking empty and not working because they cannot get Americans to do that kind of job. They have half the workforce, which is Taiwanese, which they did bring in. The Taiwanese don't want to live in the United States either. They have a different way of life. They like different things. They like walking and taking public transportation and eating on street vendors with the kind of food that they actually like. They don't want to go to Walmart or McDonald's as their daily routine or get on a pickup truck every single day to drive a few miles to a mall and back home and work. No, they have different things going on in their lives.
It means you are negotiating against yourself. And that comes as Trump sounds like a completely different person when it comes to Beijing. I mean, just listen to him over the past 24 hours.
We're doing fine with China.
I'm not going to say, oh, I'm going to play hardball with China.
We're going to be very nice. We're going to be very good to China.
I love Trump. I mean, well, I don't know. I don't love Trump. I love my wife, my kids. That's what I love. That's as far as my love goes, right? And then I have affection for people that I really, really care for. Sure. You're going to play now nice with China after 145% tariff. Of course, the Chinese are using that against you. It is definitely backpedaling on something that was definitely not playing out as they expected.
I mean, that rhetoric, good to China, nice to China, is radically different than what we have heard from Trump. I mean, radically different. And words matter here. Words have started this whole thing. Listen to what he said since the beginning of the trade war.
Look, for years we've been ripped off and taken advantage of by China.
What other presidents allow China?
This, fuck it if I have to agree with anything coming from CNN, but it is true that words matter. You would not believe the amount of people that still think that the tariffs that Trump showed that day were actually real. They're not. That is a trade deficit. It is not a tariff. A tariff is something, if I'm selling you this into your country, this USB cable, a tariff is something that, okay, it's worth $1. Okay, now it's worth $1.40 you have to pay because there's a 40% tariff to sell this in the United States. So it is 40% on top of it. That is an actual tariff. Making shit up does not make it real. Saying that a trade deficit, because I sell a lot more to you than you buy from me, and likewise, that is not a tariff. That is simply a trade deficit. Very likely because you are the country that prints the reserve currency of the world, and thus you can do that. If I print as much money as I want and everyone takes it, I will buy the entire... If I am... Just think about it for a second, guys. I really want you to try very, very, very hard because I see this in the comments. Let's say my printer, my Epson printer, prints actually legal tenor currency. I can print as much money as I want. What is that you do? What is that you do if you print money? You go out and buy shit. You buy mansions. You buy buildings. You buy land. You buy private jets. You buy whatever because you're literally printing money. The United States literally prints money and goes around the world and says, okay, give me stuff. I will give you these pieces of paper that I'm printing. And the rest of the world says, okay, this actually works for us. To some degree, with some concessions and this and that and negotiation. But you are in a position of extreme benefit. You are the one printing the money. You cannot on top of that, get angry that people are selling to you with the money you print. That is not logical. That's why the entire world was so pissed, and in a great degree, it still is.
To get away with is absolutely criminal. China obviously treats us very badly. China's an abuser.
China's ripping off the United States for $1 trillion a year.
And
China is happy to have state-owned companies making stuff and selling them all over the world. China has no problem with Apple. Apple, as far as I know, that is an American company. Apple making their phones in China and getting a nice cut out of it, and they are happy enough to provide the factories, the workers, the people that will have a way of life and conditions that are maybe very different from the ones in the United States. Mexico is the same thing. You're going to tell me what? China is taking advantage of you. Mexico is screwing you over too. Canada is screwing you over. Europe is screwing you over. Everyone is taking advantage of you. Everyone is screwing you. Well, that is some way of putting it. It is simply not true. Mexico is not taking advantage of the United States. Mexico is probably very grateful that money from the United States pours in and they make stuff to sell back to the United States. Probably manufacturers in the United States are very happy that they have cheaper parts made in Mexico and they can assemble them in the United States and then have a US-made car on the streets and they get a nice cut themselves. Let business be business. Allow freedom to do its thing. Let capitalism work, Trump. Come on, what happened with all of the libertarians? What happened with free trade? What happened with freedom in politics? Where is all of that? This is the exact opposite. Don't be fooled. This is the exact opposite of allowing freedom of competition, of trade, of negotiating one-on-one. Wine companies, the wine lobby in the United States has been negotiating with the European wine lobby for a very long time. They've reached a very happy agreement for both parts. It works. You buy, you sell, you trade. You have market doing what market does best. When you get in there, when the government gets in there and says, no, you're taking advantage of, because listen, Mr. Trump, the thing is this, they sell certain things that we cannot actually produce, and we only produce a certain amount, so we kind of have a good thing going on here. Let us do our thing. Let us work our deal with those guys over there in our industry, which we know very well. Don't get involved. Oh, fuck you. I'm going to put a whatever 50%. And then you have restaurant owners saying, yeah, people will not come because they want to buy this thing. And if they don't have this thing, they will not buy something else, especially for people as picky as wine snobs. They will not settle for anything else other than what they want. They may try something else, but they know what they want, and they will not go, oh, this is also wine. This is like you saying, yeah, this is also a gun, and buying some piece of shit crap handmade in Pakistan, just as good as your Glock. No, it's not, all right? It is that kind of level of discussion that we're looking at here.
And that almost pales to what was online. I mean, dozens of posts like the ones we'll show you here. China's brutal to American farmers. China treats us the worst. China panicked. I mean, you can read the missives. At this point, though, the side that seems to be panicking is the Trump side here, which, if these...
Well, you expect this from CNN, right? Shitting on Trump as much as possible, Trump chicken out.
Half tonight.
Yeah, this is the propaganda aspect of all of this, right? Now, being objective, you have to analyze the situation for what it is. Of course, China is going to mock Trump about chickening out and whatnot, and CNN eats that up like fucking fried chicken themselves. Yeah, of course. But I don't think it was a good idea. I don't think that they're screwing us because we have a trade deficit with them. No. Find a way of making products that the world wants, and you will be in business. You will have your own industry. And also ask yourself, do you even want to be China? Because I get it. You cannot have no industry whatsoever. It is a strategic flaw to be so dependent on China for everything. Find a reasonable solution. This is not it. Guys, see you on the next video. Have a great day. Take care.